Hello, my friends. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the autosomal DNA results, predicted phenotype traits, and GED match results of a Baltic hunter gatherer from the Narva culture. This individual lived in this region of northwestern Lithuania, but he did not resemble modern Lithuanians at all. This individual lived in the Middle Neolithic period back then. Uh, these folks in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia actually did not even practice agriculture. They were hunters and gatherers. They didn't practice cattle herding either. And then, after some period of time has passed, it is in the Bronze Age that they started cattle herding and practicing agriculture with the corded ware culture, and that's when they became sort of mainstream normal Europeans. But at this point, they were not the same as people in, say, Poland or Germany. The lifestyle was completely different because in Germany and Poland at this time, people were practicing agriculture. They already had advanced societies. They had big cities were sort of cities where people lived in together, congregated together. That was not the case in Lithuania and Latvia and Estonia. In Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, these folks were still nomadic hunter gatherers. So right now we're going to be looking at the DNA of such nomadic hunter gatherer from Lithuania. First, we're going to start with ethnic calculator results with my trait predictor. And with my trait predictor, this individual seems to be closest to Bailulii medieval Lithuanian from Lithuania. Very interesting, but it's not a particularly close distance. It's a fairly large distance, to be honest, to the sample, and it has a large distance. It is the closest sample to it, and a mixture of this sample plus this sample is also the closest mixture to it. So what does this say? This says that it's an outlier sample that does not fit into the model for my oracle. My oracle is not suited for this type of a sample. That's what it really says. So why this might have occurred is because this individual is extremely Northern European, more Northern European than any of the samples in my reference oracle. That's probably why it's a lot more Northern European than any sample that is here in my reference sheet. So because of that, you see Bailulilai Lithuania Medieval plus Bailulilai Lithuania Medieval coming up at first place. The closest mixture is a mixture of the same thing together. Now let me show you with Eurogenes K13. Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. This sample is going to be closest to a mixture of extreme Northern European plus the same extreme Northern European because it is actually a lot more Northern European than even the most extreme Northern European population in the reference group. So if you click on the Oracle 4 here, we're going to see something similar. We see Estonia plus Labrana, so they have a Labrana here as a reference, so that's why you see this. But um, is there a result without Labrana? There is no result without Labrana. Okay. But let's substitute Labrana for Estonian, right? So this would just be, because they score similar, this would just be Estonian plus Estonian plus Estonian plus Estonian 4 times in a row, because once again, Estonian is the closest European group to somebody like this. And still, they are a lot more southern shifted and a lot more Mediterranean. They have a lot more Mediterranean admixture than this individual, because this individual is extremely Nordic, extremely Nordic. They score, if you combine the North Atlantic and the Baltic categories together, which are the categories that peak in Northern Europeans, which represent Northern European genetic drift, this individual has something like 96%, I think it's 96% of extreme Northern European genetic drift, more than any population in Europe. So it's just, it doesn't fit into this traditional oracle with traditional European groups. And that's Eurogenes K13. Other calculators show this to an even more extreme extent. So if you look at PanDNA LK12 ancient, we see that this individual has 75% European hunter-gatherer admixture. In reality, it's probably even higher because this calculator has some trouble with European hunter-gatherer admixture. The reference group for European hunter-gatherers, I think, is a little bit more extremely northern than European hunter-gatherers in reality. That's why European hunter-gatherers tend to get modeled as a mixture of European HG plus Anatolian Neolithic here. But this individual actually does have a little bit of Anatolian Neolithic farmer admixture. You can figure that out by looking at the oracle. So let's look at the oracle. And with the oracle, we see it's closest to Bichon, which is a hunter-gatherer, Hungary hunter-gatherer. But we see that he's getting modeled as a mixture of Bichon plus various European farmers, right? So there is 95% Bichon plus 5% Hungary farmer. 95% Bichon plus 4% Hungary Neolithic, which is once again a farmer. Bichon plus Remedello, which is once again a very farmer-derived individual. So it's got a little bit of farmer admixture. There's around 5 to 8% farmer admixture, but actually no, I shouldn't count that as farmer. I should say 5 to well, I don't know. I don't really know. Maybe 5 to 6% farmer admixture. But there is some farmer admixture in this individual. There is some Neolithic Neolithic farmer admixture in this individual. Let's see your ancient Eurasia K6 with Gedrosia calculators. So once again, here we see that there is some European farmer admixture. This individual scoring 10% Natufian, which is a little bit high by European hunter-gatherer standards. The highest group that they score is West European hunter-gatherer, which really peaks in Matala and Scandinavian hunter-gatherers. So it's not necessarily Western. It's not so Western as it says on the screen. In reality, it's a little bit more Eastern. And we see with the oracle that this individual is scoring. Actually, they are scoring some exotic components. They're scoring Hungarian hunter-gatherer plus the Yemeni, or the Western hunter-gatherer plus Yemeni. So they are actually scoring some pretty exotic stuff, pretty exotic Mediterranean stuff. And with MDLPK11, we see more of the same. We see this individual scoring 14% Neolithic, and scoring 14% Neolithic is a lot. It's a lot of Neolithic, but and it's actually more than what's typical for a Western hunter-gatherer, because if we click on the oracle, you will see the same thing, that this individual has got a little bit of something more southern admixed, like Bokstein Mesolithic plus Vatia, or Maros, or Bronze Age Hungarian. So there is a southern admixture here present, and it's present with this calculator, and it's present with every calculator you use. So there's it's mostly Hungary Bronze Age. It's mostly Bronze Age groups, and I'm thinking the reason for that is because this individual is also scoring a little bit of EHG. Rather than getting modeled as a mixture of hunter-gatherer plus farmer directly, they're getting modeled as a mixture of hunter-gatherer plus Bronze Age European, and I think that's because of the EHG, which is not really EHG. Just by the way, I need to set this straight. These calculators, these components are really misnamed. Like WHG in this case is not WHG. It's Western and Eastern hunter-gatherer. It's European hunter-gatherer component. It's not just WHG. And EHG in this case is really Caucasus-specific drift. So this individual has some Caucasus-specific drift, and because of that Caucasus-specific drift, I'm thinking that's why the model for the secondary population is choosing a Bronze Age European source rather than a like a European farmer. But there is some southern admixture in the sample for sure. Now let's go ahead and explore what this sample scores with my noshacot, what they look like. Um, it looks like the closest phenotypes to this individual are this, which is actually like a Caucasus phenotype. But as you can see, I changed the eye color. This one has blue eyes, followed by this phenotype, followed by this phenotype. Cool. Okay, so for the eye color, it looks like this individual most likely has green eyes or blue eyes with a name center. Those are the biggest components. 40.5% likelihood of green eyes, 32.5 blue eyes with a name center. Blue eyes are not really all that likely, only 15% likelihood. Hazel eyes are also not really all that likely. And definitely no brown eyes, definitely no darkest brown eyes. So it's a pretty light color, light eye color individual. There's either blue eyes or green eyes. Blue eyes with a name center or green eyes. All right. For the hair color, it looks like this individual actually has black hair. Very interesting. Black hair followed by dark brown hair, followed by dark blonde and light brown hair. So most likely this person actually has dark hair color, which is kind of, I don't know, surprising. Well, not really. Not really, because like a middle Neolithic European, most of them were very dark. So I guess it's not that surprising. What's more surprising is the green eyes. That's I think is more surprising. The light eye color. Okay, so for skin color, it looks like this individual likely has olive or Mediterranean skin tone. All right, definitely not dark brown skin, probably not white or palest skin, most likely olive or Mediterranean skin tone. For hair texture, it looks like this individual has straight hair, or I guess wavy is also possible here. Curly is also possible here, so it's straight or wavy or curly. Kinky hair is out of the picture, definitely no kinky hair. But the largest likelihood is for straight hair. And for coloring related variants, it looks like this person has BH3. Okay, so we see this pattern of European hunter gatherers having BH3. I noticed pretty much all of them have BH3 past a certain point, which is very interesting because nowadays blue eye haplotype 3 is actually not all that common. Is even in Central Europe. It's really only common in Scandinavia and like Finland and places like that. But it's not all that common in Central Europe. But like all of the hunter gatherers seem to have it. This individual has blue eye haplotype 2, very interesting. Blue eye haplotype 1, okay. And no blue eye haplotype 4. All right. Pretty cool. Pretty typical stuff. That was expected. He does not have light color variants in the SLC 45A2. Very interesting. That's a big part of what contributed to him scoring dark hair. That's the biggest contribution to him scoring black hair, actually. These genotypes, these three genotypes. This individual has two light color variants in SLC 24A5. All right, so he does have the Eurasian light skin variants because it's not entirely European. There's other ethnicities who have light skin variants in this gene as well. It looks like he's got two light color variants in this variation of IRF4, which is very interesting. I normally don't have much to talk about here, but this individual has two light color variants in this variation, and it's implicated in basically red hair, pale skin, and blue eyes. And it's really uncommon. It is really, really uncommon among modern Europeans, aside from like Irish people. And weirdly, if you look at on Alfred, it is also quite common among the Commies, which is very interesting. But it's peaks in Irish people. So it's surprising to me that it is so common among these hunter gatherers because I've noticed that most hunter gatherers I've made videos on have had two light color variants here. It is not a particularly important variation. The impact it has is it's a little bit of an impact, but it's not a particularly important variation, unfortunately. So this individual does not have any light color variants in Keto G. This variation is implicated in color of skin mostly, but eyes and hair come secondary. This variation is implicated mostly in the color of hair and pretty much nothing else. And I'm pretty sure that all three of these variations are implicated in testicular cancer as well, testicular cancer risk, which is kind of interesting. Okay, and this individual does not have any drought variants in MC1R, so it looks like no predisposition to being ginger. All right. Now let's go ahead and check their polygenic risk scores and what monogenic traits they had. So for the polygenic risk scores, it looks like this woman has a very high score for schizophrenia, which is very interesting. A average score for type 2 diabetes, a above average score for Alzheimer's, a below average score for multiple sclerosis. The thing that surprised me is the high score for schizophrenia. So we're gonna discuss that a little bit in detail later. Um, two risk variants for breast cancer out of 12, which is pretty typical. 12 for testicular cancer out of 20, which is pretty bad. It's pretty bad because I'm guessing that she's got risk variants in all the three most important variations, but I don't know. We're gonna have to figure that out later as we go through the file. I'm guessing it's gonna be bad because of the ethnicity, mostly because of the ethnicity of the sample. Because testicular cancer risk peaks in Europeans, and this individual is as European as you can get. Two risk variants for celiac disease out of 10, which is, I guess, pretty typical. 0 for GSS out of 2. All right, that's pretty good. 10 risk variants for Crohn's out of 26. That's definitely awful. So we're gonna have to look at the Crohn's disease risk section, and we're gonna figure out why that is. That's awful. That's really alarming, actually. 0 risk variants for Raffenstein's out of 4. Unfortunately, not many stuff was found here, and 3 for Parkinson's out of 10. Once again, not a lot of stuff was found here. So we're gonna go ahead and explore the result. We're gonna have to keep in mind about Crohn's and testicular cancer. All right, so for the results for mental health section, it looks like this individual has got AA in Comte-Met variation, meaning warrior genotype in Comte, and also warrior genotype in MAOA. This is very, very extremely European. It's as European of a genotype as you can possibly have. The warrior alleles in both Comte and MAOA peak in Europeans. So this individual definitely has lower activity of the Comte and lower activity of the MAOA enzyme. Slower breakdown of dopamine, therefore higher dopamine levels and certain advantages in memory and attention tasks, disadvantages in stress resilience, which is kind of interesting. How this might interact with her lifestyle as a hunter-gatherer. Certainly, life as a hunter gatherer is very stressful. So I don't know how this kind of a genotype would be beneficial to her as a hunter gatherer, but you know, it is what it is. She's got it. It looks like she's got GG genotype here, which means no go learner variants in DRD2 Spirophenecine Pro. No go learner variants in DRD2 Spirophenecine Pro. And this basically implies that she's got a higher number of dopamine D2 receptor sites in the brain and higher likelihood of stuff like schizophrenia. Definitely not a no go learner. Okay, she's got AG in TAC1, which is kind of surprising as well. I haven't seen that many European samples with the A1 allele in TAC1. It's not really all that common in Europeans. But basically, the A1 allele in TAC1 greatly reduces the number of dopamine D2 receptor sites in the brain and increases the likelihood of stuff like alcoholism, Parkinson's, and ADHD. In her case, she's definitely got a reduced number of dopamine D2 receptor sites in the brain because of this genotype. And it looks like she does not have long form 5-HTTL-PR either, and does not have a decrease in risk of depression. She's got a typical score for depression. We're going to skip autism. We're going to skip DDC. Lactose persistence, it looks like she does not carry derived variants for European lactose persistence. She is not lactose tolerant. She's lactose intolerant, can tolerate processed milk. Okay. For results for OXTR and empathy gene, it looks like she's got 2 variants for higher levels of empathy in this variation of OXTR. And okay, so I guess she's not a sociopath. For diabetes, it looks like it does not have type 1 diabetes. All right, that's good to see. The polygenic risk score for type 2 diabetes, we already saw, it was pretty average. For hemochromatosis, it looks like this individual actually has 2 copies of the H63D variant and likely suffers from hemochromatosis, which is very surprising. So she is one of the earliest samples. I'm not gonna say she is the earliest sample because you remember my videos on Cro-Magnons from Sungir, and like 2 of them had risk variants for hemochromatosis in this exact variation. But she is one of the earliest modern European samples with hemochromatosis. And nowadays, I will remind you, hemochromatosis is most common, most typical for Northwestern Europeans, specifically Irish people and Scottish and British Islanders. For Alzheimer's, it looks like she does not have risk variants for Alzheimer's in APOE, which is really good to see. For multiple sclerosis, it looks like she does not have any risk variants, excuse me, in the HLA gene, which is really good to see once again. We're going to skip cardiovascular disease. For myopia, it looks like she does not have the G allele here, which would protect from myopia. So she actually does not have the stereotypically European G allele in this variation, which would protect from myopia. But she does have some other genotypes which protect from myopia. So I guess she would actually be protected from myopia a little bit. She does not have micropenis. Good to see. Um, she's got impaired muscle performance, likely endurance athlete rather than strength or power athlete, which is pretty interesting. Once again, I don't know how this would coincide with her being a hunter gatherer. And she's got 1 fat gene variant and FTOs RS9949609. So she's got higher odds of obesity and sleep apnea. She's likely got photic sneeze reflex, which is very European. And she does not have variants for increased pain sensitivity in SCN9A. In EDAR, her genotype is extremely European. She's got a European genotype in EDAR, definitely not East Asian. She's probably got European facial morphology as well because of that. She is not an Asian flusher. She's got lower odds of alcoholism, and she's got normal risk of esophageal cancer. Um, we're gonna skip drug response. For albinism, looks like she's not a carrier of any of the albinism mutations. For familiar Mediterranean fever, looks like she does not have it. And why would she? It's a very stereotypically Jewish disease. Why would she have it? For MCHFR panel, it looks like she's got this genotype, heterozygous genotype in this variation of MCHFR, which leads to a reduction in the efficiency of processing folic acid, slightly higher than average odds for a variety of illnesses from autism to coronary heart disease. For cancer section, we remember that we have to look out for cancers, for testicular cancer, and it looks like it is true. It looks like all the 3 most important variations for testicular cancer were found in the file, and she's got a unfortunate genotype in all of them. She's got the risk genotype in all 3 of them. So she's definitely got a higher odds for testicular cancer. For leukemia panel, it looks like she's good. She doesn't have increased in the risk of leukemia. That's really good to see. For rare diseases panel, she's got this genotype here, which is common but leads to a high risk for certain autoimmune diseases. I'm not sure why I put it into the rare diseases panel. For celiac disease, it looks like she's got a she's got a 1 HLA-DRB1 allele here, which increases the risk for certain autoimmune disorders such as lupus or celiac disease. and she's got one risk variant here, but it doesn't seem too bad. We're gonna skip allergies. For androgen receptor gene, it looks like she's got GG here, which means to typical or slightly higher than average odds of baldness. She's European, and Europeans pretty much all score the same, all have the same genotype here. All Europeans are GG here, which means all Europeans have higher than average odds of baldness. For Crohn's disease, this is good to see. So she actually doesn't have risk variance for Crohn's in the most important variations. That's really good to see because we remember her score for Crohn's was crazy. It was like 12 out of 20 something, and we now see that none of these are in the most important variations. So that's good. That's really good. For Canavan syndrome, it looks like there is no risk variance for that. All right. For HIV, she's got this genotype, which means two protective variants in this variation, which leads to a 90% reduction in HIV viral load. It's these variations that I'm gonna close this. These variants that contribute to a reduction in HIV viral load, they are all most common in Europeans. And I've read studies online that suggested that this is because of the Black Plague, and it doesn't make much sense to me. I think I'm gonna make a video on this. It doesn't make much sense to me because East Asians also survived the Black Plague, but you don't see these protective variants in East Asians. That's number one, or any other protective variants in East Asians. You know, you might say they develop their own mutations. No, there is no protective alleles from HIV that are present in East Asians at all, and East Asians suffered from the Black Plague just as much as Europeans did, right? And that's number one. But number two is I'm seeing all of these Mesolithic and Neolithic European samples. I'm seeing even Anatolian hunter gatherers and Anatolian Neolithic farmers who have this genotype, which leads to reduction in HIV viral load. Clearly, they did not develop this genotype because of the Black Plague, because they have been living millennia before the Black Plague came to Europe. So obviously, it's something else. It doesn't have to do with the Black Plague. I'm gonna try to do some research into it, figure out possible what possible reason there might be for this for these alleles existing in Europeans, but I don't think it's the Black Plague. I don't think the Europeans have these protective alleles from HIV because well, it helps with surviving the Black Death. You know, I don't think that's the case, and I'm gonna make a video on it pretty soon. I'm just letting you know right now. It looks like this individual does not have any risk variance for ADL, really good to see, or any of the other muscular dystrophies. For color blindness panel, 1 risk variant out of 2 in OP and 1 SW. Alright. And nothing was found for OPN1LW or OPN1MW. For FTO gene panel, it looks like she's heterozygous for most of these, which lead to a increased odds of obesity. Alright. And for bio traits panel, it looks like she's got a genotype which leads to higher risk of male pattern baldness. Actually, 2 genotypes that lead to higher risk of male pattern baldness. This genotype which leads to an intermediate predisposition to anger, and this genotype which leads to shorter telomere span length and lifespan. Well, thanks for watching my video until the end. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. You can download this file in 23andMe format from link which is in the description of the video. Leave a like and subscribe. Goodbye.